Good morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever it may be for you. My name is Lily, and I will be your host for this Ladybug Laboratory vlogcast. Today, for me, is Monday, November 20th. I'm not sure exactly when this will be going live. I am wearing my Looking Back Plum Frost cardigan, same as I was last time. If you saw part A, it has designs on the sleeves and the front, as well as buttoning up the back. So, I'm also drinking tea in just a mug from Target. These little, see? It's not really working. Oh well. It's got these little shimmery bronze designs on it. And this time I have gotten a refill of tea for myself, and I am drinking Throat Coat, which is amazing, and it's because I'm feeling a little bit sick. So, yeah. So what I've got for you guys today is some finished objects, another non-yarny craft. I guess what you might explain it as is the next part is like previous finished objects maybe, or spotlight, not really sure how to put that, as well as what I have been reading or watching. So without further ado, let's get started. So for finished objects, if we go from least exciting to most exciting, the least exciting is my Hot Mess Headband, which I knit on size 5 DPNs, Knitter's Pride. It is knit with Cascade Fixation, which has a little bit of elastic in it. It has a single cable in the middle. I used a free pattern on Ravelry called the Hot Mess Headband, and it is seamed up the back, which is kind of ugly. This was kind of more of a, I don't know, practice pattern for me. I wanted to see how I did with knitting headbands and whether or not I would wear them. So this is what it looks like on. Now my hair is kind of a little bit of a mess right now, but that's okay. It's got this little cross section. It does sort of push my hair up at the back because it's kind of thick, but it is pretty comfortable. I am not a huge fan of things sitting like on the bottom of my neck like that, so part of what I'm trying to do is find a way for that to be comfy for me. This isn't doing it yet. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's not going to be this, because I want something to cover my ears, but I don't know. I like the idea of wearing a headband, but it's just not doing it for me. As a project, this was lovely. It's a lovely headband. It's just, I don't know. I keep hoping I'm going to be a headband person, and then I'm not. So, meh. That's what's going on with this. But I was pretty happy with the project. I have another skein of Cascade Fixation, which again has elastic, that is more of like a hunter green, so I'll maybe try something else with that, maybe a little bit thinner at the back. I'm not sure. But yeah, that is finished object number 1. Finished object number 2. Let's see, I'll show you this one because you have not seen it, or you have seen it before. And these are my Red Dragon socks. And I knit these using the Vanilla is the New Black pattern. I used size 4 needles. And before, I had already finished one sock, and I was partway through the second sock. So this is the marker for where I was before. It's cuffed down, so I was just barely starting the heel. So I finished the heel and then the rest of the foot. Now, as you can see, this sock, see how it has that extra there? This one also has extra, but not as much. So I don't know what happened. I did the same size. I guess I just must have done 2 big stitches on the second one. I don't know how much of a difference it's gonna make for my brother. These are for him. He needs nice thick socks for outdoor work in the winter in New England. But yeah, I don't know. I'll see how they fit him. If it's too big, I might just send him through the dryer. I mean, it's not the most elegant solution, but it works, right? So this is, the yarn is Machete Shop Dirty DK in the colorway Red Dragon. And it's hard to tell on the camera, but there is, yeah, you can sort of see it there. There's like a little pink It blows out when I get closer, but, well, that's not terrible. The red is definitely more tonal than what you're seeing, but it is bright. It's just not quite that bright. So yeah, this is finished object number 2. Finished object number 3 is another pair of socks, and these are my endless tube knee-highs. So when you last saw these, I had finished the tube and I had not done the heels, toes, or cuffs. And these were knit with Cascade Heritage prints. I think the print was Fall Harvest or Autumn Harvest or something. And I just knit a tube, just a straight up tube. Provisional cast on, I did the toe, I did an afterthought heel, and then I finished off with the cuffs. This is the first pair of knee-high socks that I knit. And obviously they're too long for the sock blockers, but I will try and show you here. Here, let me take this one off the blocker. What I've done is I have added both cuffs, heels, and toes for both of them. Now, in the back, I did increases to a certain point, and then I did decreases to a certain point. Kind of hard to see. There you go. There's kind of like a bump here. I should have done one fewer increase and one fewer decrease and just cut that section off because it kind of points out. I guess I did my math wrong or what, I don't know, but... So I just had to restart my phone and the camera part of it, so I don't know exactly how much was there before, but let's continue. So I finished this, finished the cuff. As I mentioned, the cuff kind of shrunk a little bit, so it used to be about 6 inches. I'm so sorry, that was my sock blocker. But it's now like 4 inches. I think it's just because maybe I was stretching it out when I was knitting. I'm not really sure. Or maybe pulling it like this when I put it on made it stretch. I don't really know. But now it lands in the middle of my knee, which is non-ideal. So I usually have to fold it over when I wear them. So this is right below my knee. Now, that's totally fine. These work great in boots. They do not work as great by themselves because they do not stay up. They just don't. So these are going to be boot socks and not socks to wear without boots. But they're very comfortable, especially when they're in boots. And I really love them. So yeah, I'm glad I made them. They're my first pair, so obviously there's going to be some hiccups, but I'm really quite happy with them. Okay, so next finished object, let's see. Yep, I will do this. And this is my coral reef hat. Now you have not seen this before. For this I used, Swan's Island Merino Naturals collection in the colors Sea Smoke. I believe it's actually naturally dyed, or a natural color. I'm not 100% sure though. It is 100% merino. Wait, let me double check that. Yeah, 100% merino, and it is worsted weight, non-superwash. The pattern is the Coral Reef pattern. It's free on Ravelry. And it involves 3 basic motifs. This antler, cable, and then these 2 on the sides, which is kind of lacy, and then this traveling stitch motif in the middle. It can be worn as a slouchy hat with a really big brim, or, and what it's designed to be, is to be a folded brim beanie. Like so. So I don't know if you can see that, but yeah. I knit the brim on size 4s and the hat itself on size 5s, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. This is, again, for that bingo thing that I'm doing. There are certain patterns that if you knit them, you can count them twice, and this is one of them. So I think this is going to become a gift for my dad for Christmas. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. And my final finished object is the one that I am the most proud of and is the most exciting. And that is my snowfall. So, those of you that are long-term viewers might remember this. It is silken lace, and it's patterned after snowflakes, and it is massive. I can't even get the whole thing in screen. So, just to do it in arm spans, this is the very edge of it. Okay, straight across from my neck to my arm. So, those of you that are returning viewers may know that I was really struggling with the bind off because I was not a fan of either bind off option in the pattern, and I just kept trying things and they just didn't work. So what I ended up doing was the faux crochet bind off, and I have linked the tutorial to that in my project notes, but there it is. And I'm actually really happy with it. I just took my blocking wires and wove it through that, and it sort of echoes the eyelets on the sides and top of the shawl, which I really like. Now this is a triangle shawl, and it is absolutely massive. The pattern was written by Lotte Greger, and it is called, gosh, I don't remember what it's called, but whatever it's called is basically snowflake in German, I think. It's huge. Absolutely huge. It was gifted to me by Carolyn of the Next Beautiful Thing podcast and design studio, and she's amazing. It all came out of a joke where she asked me if there was anything I wanted from Canada, and I said I wanted snow, and she gifted me this pattern, and I had a shawl's quantity worth of lace weight undyed yarn, and this is what happened, and I'm so happy with it. Now the beads, the pattern calls for 8060, I don't remember. But I chose to have, let me see, smaller beads for most of it, the 80 beads. And they're just cream beads. Let's see. You can kind of see them like up there. And then for the big snowflakes, I did bigger beads on the edges as well as in the center. And then the smaller beads to sort of accent the edges. I am so happy with this. So let me just put it on for you. It is absolutely massive, and I am so happy with it. I don't even think I can wear it as a scarf because it's so big. This is obviously not an everyday wear thing. Like goes past my waist, but oh my gosh, I am so happy with it. I'm very proud of this and of all the work that went into it, and yeah, thank you, Carolyn, thank you so much. So that is that. I use size 5 needles, and the yarn is by Black Trillium Fiber Studios. It's merino silk, mostly merino with some silk and nylon, I believe. Yeah, so those are my finished objects for today. I lied to you. 2 more finished objects that I forgot about. I made water balloons. So I found a pattern on Ravelry for water balloons, and it's literally just like crocheted bulky yarn, and then you soak them in water, and they saturate so much water, and you throw them and they just splat everywhere. This one looks a little bit funky because I already soaked it in water as like a trial run. This one I have not done yet, but I'm using up old sort of, this is angel hair and this is divine, and it's like wool mohair and nylon basically. They're very soft and silky, but I don't know what I'm going to do with them. And so here they are. I'm also planning to use these for my 49 squares thing for probably bulky or super bulky yarn. Yeah, they actually work really well. I tested this one out and it was surprising how well it worked. So there you go. I used a size 6mm hook, and the pattern that I used I will link to in my project page. Yeah, that's all. All right, non-knitting crafts. So, Halloween is kind of a big deal at the school that I work at, and so of course I dressed up, and I dressed up in my Edwardian ball. It's for my Dickens Fair. It's my Dickens Fair outfit. And last minute I realized I didn't have a shirt or a belt. So the night before I ran to the thrift store, I picked up a bunch of shirts, tried them all on with it. I ended up deciding on this brown one, and I needed a Medici belt. So I ran to Joann's and I got like a yard of, maybe 2 yards of this brown cotton. It's just a very generic brown cotton. And I kind of crafted my own pattern based on a bunch of research that I did. Now, Medici belts, for those of you that don't know, are little belts that look like this, and they kind of like go like this, okay? It doesn't look great on me right now because I'm not wearing the appropriate underpinnings. But basically what I did is I used some old tissue paper, excuse the crinkling, and I mapped out a design. Now this is my scratch paper because the cats destroyed the one I ended up using. But I cut it out and I used that as a pattern. And I cut out 2 pieces of the cotton that were that size. And I ironed interfacing onto the back of them both. And then I cut out 4 long pieces of cotton that were essentially an arm span, okay? And so for these long pieces, I would put 2 of them together, I would iron them, and I seamed around the edge, turned it inside out, as one does, and I top stitched about 1/4 inch in the edge, all the way around, and I did that twice. Then, for this, I took the 2 pieces and I pressed in the edges all the way around the interfacing. So I left about 1/2 inch around the interfacing open, pressed in the edges, and I top stitched, I put them together, wrong sides together, so they're not actually sewn together other than the top stitch. So I top stitched around like so, and I left the 2 sides open. And when I was done with that, I took my long strips and fed them into here and then top stitched right down there just to finish it up and attach the strips, and then I had a belt. Now, it took me a few hours to do this. It took me maybe 4 or 5 hours to do it the night before. And so I just tied it in the back, and the tassels are very long, and they ran, they probably would have run almost all the way to the ground, except that I had a petticoat on. But on Instagram, I actually posted the end result of what I wore, and you can go look it up there. I'll add a picture here if I think about it. Yeah, so that is my non-yarny craft. I did some sewing. Hopefully I'll get back into sewing again in the future, but for today, that's what I did. So this next part is sort of a transition between a non-yarny craft and my section on like a spotlight of previous finished objects. And what I'm going to be showing you is a couple of things that I'm going to be giving to various people for Christmas. And the first one, you're going to have to bear with me. There we go. It's in a plastic bag. Is another thing that I've created, that I've finished, and it is yarny, but it's not like a knitting or crochet project, so I didn't really know where to put that, and those are these tiny little sheepies. And so the sheep are laser burned out of wood by Katrinkles. And I got a bunch of them at the Black Squirrel last time that I was there. And I used little 2-ish gram scraps that I had. Too small to go in my blanket. Too big to really feel good about throwing out. And I wrapped them on these sheeps. And then I put little hangers on them. So I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet. They might just stick around as future gifts. Maybe they'll be stocking stuffers. But I'm really happy with them. I think they are absolutely adorable. I made 10. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with them. I might wait until next year. But yeah, I'm very happy with them. And they live in a plastic bag with a whole bunch of weird things that I don't use, like this, which I will probably never give away as gifts. This is a trivet, which I probably will give away as a gift. But they're just kind of there for my emergency stash. And the next one that I want to show you is something that I made in 2014, summer of 2014. And it was one of my first really big projects. It was one of my first lace projects, one of my first beaded projects. It was a big deal. And that is this shawl. This, I don't happen to know any of the information off the top of my head, but I will put it all in the down bar. I got the pattern from a Jane Austen Knits magazine. I think I used size, I don't know what size needle I used. This was years ago, you guys. The yarn is from Art Fibers Studio. They were having like a closing out sale. They retired, and I got a cone of it, so I still have a ton of it. And there it is. Now, it has an applied border. And I don't remember exactly how this worked, but I think you did a provisional cast on and did the applied border on both sides. I think that's how you did it. But it's got this like leafy pattern in the middle, the beads on the edges. There it is. Let me see if I can, but I mean, you can't really see it super well because it is lace. Let me see if this helps. There we go. And when I first made this, I made it to be a shawl for me on an airplane. I could wear it as a scarf, I could wear it as a blanket, I could wear it as a pillow, as a shawl, and I used it a lot. I took it on a lot of trips with me. I used it as a shawl. And I used it a lot for about 6 months, and then I never used it again. And when I had first made it, my mom was absolutely in love with it. Absolutely in love. And I haven't worn it since 2014. And I figured, you know what? It's time. I didn't have time to make my mom a Christmas gift this year, and so I'm going to give this to her. And I haven't actually decided if I'm going to tell her that I'm basically just regifting the one I made for myself. But I don't want to tell her I made another one because that's technically a lie. But I don't want her to feel like it's just leftovers. I don't know. I know she will love it and appreciate it. And yeah. So that is going to my mom, and I just wanted to show that off to you guys before I packed it up. I was very, very proud of this when I first made it. It took me several months, and I wasn't employed at the time, so several months of basically just working on it. Nowadays, if I really sat down and focused on it, it would probably take me 3 weeks. But yeah, I mean, it's still something that I'm pretty proud of doing. It was definitely a huge step in my knitting career, if you will, to finish this. So that's what that is. So the last thing for today is what I have been watching, reading, listening to, etc. To start with, an audio podcast that I've been listening to while I'm driving or doing errands is What the Folklore. And it's it's pretty fun. It's these three people who are all roommates, and they sit in a room, and Carmen usually reads a folk tale, which is absolutely nuts from the bowels of history, to Tyler and Gordy, and they all make fun of it, slash try to make it make sense, slash do a whole bunch of craziness with it. It is a lot of fun. It has me laughing constantly, and I really enjoy it. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more lighthearted, um, that's definitely a good one to listen to. Another thing that I have been watching is Criminal Minds. It is kind of my shut down and do nothing watching right now. I don't have to think in any way when I'm watching it. It's just enough to engage me so that I forget about the rest of my life. And I have been watching most of my regular podcasts, but I'm a little bit behind on that. In terms of reading, I have not been reading a lot, but I recently put a bunch of books on my Kindle, so hopefully I will pick up reading again. And yeah, I guess that's about all that I have to say for you guys today. So thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed and have a fantastic day, and happy crafting. Bye!